sure you would understand from what I speak. I work in Western Ghats. The we look at the land use changes and the current status of the thing, how it is likely to change by 2031. We would have looked at. So when you look at the Western Ghats, is just now the previous speaker Mahesh was talking about Himalaya is one of the global biodiversity hotspots. Similarly, the Western Ghat is also one among the 36 global biodiversity hotspots. Now let us look at the diversity of species. You know, our literatures have talked about 8 to 12 million species. You know, Rigveda and the Mahabharata talks about these species, and also science has estimated about 1.3 million species. Now, when you look at the Western Ghats, you know, the length it extends from Kerala to Gujarat. The length is about 1,600 kilometers, and latitudinally it is from 8 to 22 degree latitude. And when you look at the occurrence of species in the latitudinal gradient, you will see the highest number of species along the Kerala and Karnataka part of the Western Ghats. And the Western Ghat has about 4,000 plus flowering plants, about 330 species of butterflies, and fishes are about 289 species. When you look at the endemism is quite high in the Western Ghats. You know, that is when we talk about diversity. You know, when we have a diversity, we will have diverse food and also the diverse medicines. When you look at the medicine that is manufactured today, 50% are from the natural resources. That is where we need to conserve the Western Ghat at least for our food and medicine. Now, because of the COVID, you know, most of us are staying inside, and our face is also masked now. Now, one simple microorganism has kept us inside the home. The microorganism has come to us because of the deforestation. You know, these are the zoonotic diseases. These have the origin from the animals. For example, in the Shivamogga and the Uttara Kannada part of Karnataka, we have a monkey fever. When we look at the monkey fever, the monkeys are spreading the fever among the humans. When the monkeys started coming to the human habitation, we saw the virus getting transmitted through the ticks to the humans, which led to the high scale mortality in those villages in Uttara Kannada and Shivamogga. Why did the monkeys came to the human habitation? Because there was the food was not available to the monkey. With the large scale monoculture plantation, the animals stopped getting the food. Earlier there were Michaelia champaca and such species were available, which the monkeys were dependent on. Since it was not there, the food was not there, the animals started coming, and that is where the wild animal, the virus from the wild animal, which are resident and which are inactive, got activated when it passed on to the humans, and the similar thing happened in the COVID. So that also alerts us that we need to arrest the deforestation if you are thinking of saving the globe or the earth. Now, even the tree endemism, if you look at the Kerala and Karnataka part of the Western Ghats have the higher tree endemism compared to the other parts of the Western Ghats. So now when you look at the diversity, you know, natural system tend to increase the diversity, and that's where it reaches a harmony, and also it leads to the greater unification, and it has the higher energy efficiency and material cycle, as we understand from the ecosystem function, the hydrological, nutrient, biogeochemical cycling that does happens in the system efficiently. But when there are disturbances in the form of deforestation, there is a species extinction, leads to the conflicts, entropy, and reduced capacity to carry life. Okay, we need to protect this endemic species habitat. So that is where, you know, the earlier the people practiced the Devara Kadus or sacred groves. So they understood the linkages and dependence of the human on this patch of forest for water and also the diverse food and the medicine. They protected this patch of forest. They are called Devara Kadus. Over a period of time, now we see Devara Kadus have been replaced by the idols, and slowly the temples are taking over. Now, when we did the study in the villages in the vicinity of Devara Kadu and the villages in the vicinity of the monoculture plantation, we found that the villages in the vicinity of Devara Kadu, because the water was available all the season throughout the year, they could grow the multiple crop, and their earning is 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. Whereas the villages who are in the vicinity of monoculture plantation, they could grow only one crop because the water is available in only one season, and also because of the absence of the pollinators, the productivity is also, the yield is also lower. In the process, they were earning only 32,000 rupees per acre per year. That means if somebody remove the forest and convert it into rubber plantation or acacia eucalyptus the plantation, only that the person who has done that plantation will get benefit, but the villagers will lose about 1,30,000 rupees per acre per year. That's how it affects the livelihood of the people, and that is when it leads to the human the conflict in the society. Now, when you look at the nature, you see the energy material transition happens. This is one of the laws of the nature. All the organisms are in equilibrium. When only the two-legged animal gets in, then you see the imbalances are happening. And also the nature's other function is the remediation. You would have seen people washing cloth in the river. You collect the water sample, 500 meters downstream. You collect another water sample and analyze the water quality. You will be surprised to see in the second point the water has been treated. This is called treatment or remediation. This is done by organisms like algae, bacteria, etc. So that is why it's called bioremediation. That is the second principle of the nature. The third one is sustainability. The renewability is law of the nature. The younger plants come, the mature one will disappear in the system. Similarly, the human system, you see the elders fade away as the youngsters take over the system. Now, when you look at to maintain the equilibrium, if we are harvesting the resources but not over harvesting, then we are well within the limits. For example, in Uttar Kannada district where we work, I have seen women who are in the mid-50s, they go under the water, they spend 5 minutes to collect the bucket full of biomass. When they collect the bucket full of biomass, that fetches them per day the 300 to 350 rupees, which is sufficient to run their families. So that is how they do not overexploit and they maintain the equilibrium. That's how every fisherman get their share in the system. Now, when we talk about developmental projects, everyone talks about development. The GDP at what cost? Development at what cost, one should ask. If development is going to deprive our next generation the water and the medicine, I would say we should not go in for that kind of the development. Now, when you look at the Western Ghats, there is a degradation of the forest to an extent of 5%. During the period 1985 to 2018, we have analyzed the land cover and the land use in the Western Ghats. In some of the districts like Uttar Kannada district, wherein the Uttar Kannada district is about 10,000 square kilometer. It is supposed to be the highly forested district one of the highly forested district in India. Even in that district, the evergreen forest, which was about 62% in 73, today is about 29%. This large-scale degradation and deforestation, even in the region which are ecologically sensitive, is really worrying. The Karnataka faced the floods in a region called Kodagu, and also Kerala faced the flood. Why did the region receive face the flood? If you look at the rainfall, the pattern, the rainfall which was supposed to spread for 30 to 35 days has come in a week's time. Higher amount of water in a lesser duration led to the flooding situation. And also, second thing is, by removal of vegetation didn't allow the infiltration of the water. In the process, large amount of water was flowing overland, led to the flooding, and most of the water went to the ocean. Since there was no infiltration, immediately after the rain, we saw the drought situation, drying of wells and drying of the streams we noticed. If you want to sustain the water in the rivers and streams for all the 12 months, one need to have the vegetation to an extent of 55 to 60%, that too of native species. We did a comparative assessment in a couple of river basins to see the linkage between the forest and type of forest to the availability of the water. In the catchment, wherein they dominated by the native vegetation to an extent of 60 or 70%, we saw the streams are perennial. That means all the 12 months they water. Whereas in the monoculture, the catchment, that means the catchment dominated by monoculture plantation of rubber or acacia or eucalyptus, we saw 6 to 8 months of the availability of water. While in the catchment which are degraded where the forest cover is less than 33%, we saw that only seasonal streams were there and water was available only for 4 months. Now, if you want to understand the mechanism, when we have the diverse vegetation, because the trees are diverse, the microbes are also diverse. The microbes in the soil are also diverse. Because of this interaction, the root with the microbe, we see that the soil is porous or the permeable. In the process, it allowed the water to percolate, and when the water percolated, it filled the groundwater zone, and next is the water zone. After filling these two layers, then with the saturation of that, we would see the water flowing in the stream. Now, after the monsoon receded, the water stored in the water zone used to flow to the streams or rivers, while during the summer, the water stored in the groundwater zone came to the stream or the river. That's how we have the water all the 12 months. By deploying sensors in the catchment at the various strata, we have done the analysis. This publication was, this article was published recently in the Current Science. Those who are interested can download our article, which is available in the Current Science. The 10th May issue gives the details of the linkages between the water availability to the catchment condition. And also we have done the analysis across the river basin, the rivers which are free flowing to the ones which are with the dams. Our analysis shows the rivers which are free flowing in the downstream, in the estuary region, people get fish, then sand, salt and bivalves to an extent of about 11 lakh rupees per hectare per year. Whereas in the rivers where the dams are there, the estuary, the people were getting the goods worth 2,40,000 rupees per the hectare per year. So this is where when someone talks about hydroelectric project, normally the EIA, environmental impact assessment, is done only for the upstream, the area under submergence and what kind of vegetation is submerged, etc. Our study shows there is a need to look at the impact on the downstream and how it affects the people who are in the estuaries, the downstream people. Say, if you look at the Sheravati and the Kali River basin with a dam, we see that the fishermen have to go for about 130 hectares to get their catch. Whereas in the free-flowing river, about 5 to 8 hectares the area, if they do the fishing, they get the required fish. So that means the fishing effort, quantity of the fish and diversity of the fish are affected by damming, etc. That is where one should account the impact on the downstream while clearing the project for the hydroelectric, etc. Now, the other aspect what we have looked at is with the changes in the forest cover in the Western Ghats, what is the changes in the climate? Our study shows that about 0.5 to 1 degree increase in the temperature will happen in the Western Ghats, especially in Kerala, Karnataka part of Western Ghats, and the number of rainy days will decline. When the number of rainy days decline, that means we are going to face more and more floods and drought situation because of the deforestation in the Western Ghats. So now we have understood the linkage with the forest, with the availability of water and with the climatic condition. Now if you look at the amount of carbon that is stored in the Western Ghats forest, or as on date, it is about 1.23 million gigagram. And if you see per year, the Western Ghats forest sequestered the carbon to an extent of about 37 million tons, which is equivalent to a city like Bangalore or Mumbai emitting the emission. That means our Western Ghats are taking away the carbon emitted by the major cities to an extent of about what is sequestered, the carbon in Western Ghats. It amounts to about 100 billion rupees or $1.4 billion. That shows the worth of our Western Ghats and the need for conserving the Western Ghats. And more importantly, because of the 100 plus rivers in the Western Ghats, you see most of them are perennial. We have the water security in the peninsular India. Because of the water security, we have the food security. Any alteration in the integrity of the Western Ghats and making the Western Ghats the monoculture plantation landscape is going to be detrimental for the sustenance of the water, and in the process, the peninsular India will face the scarcity of water and hence the food in the region. So now, as I said earlier, COVID is a result of the deforestation. That is where we need to respect Mother Nature and make sure Mother Nature has the diverse species, so that when there is a diversity, we can minimize the instances of the zoonotic diseases in the system. The floods and landslides only highlights the vulnerability of the region or the ecological fragility of the region. So I had few slides indicating the likely implications. We talk about urbanization. When you see that people go on expanding the geographical extent of a particular region, thinking that the area is available, but water is going to be a deciding factor, as it happened in the case of Easter Island. The people expanded the geographical extent, finally the water decided the fate of that island. The same thing happened in the Vijayanagara kingdom, wherein we saw that last leg of the kingdom failed because of the water. Now the major cities in India are facing the water crisis. Probably they will also face a similar fate what has been faced by the Easter Island or the last leg of the Vijayanagara kingdom. If you are talking about the sustainable thing, the most effective way is to do the rainwater harvesting. When you look at the Bangalore city, Bangalore receives 700 to 850 millimeter of rainfall. If we harvest the rainwater, we get about 15 TMC of water. The Bangalore requires 18 TMC of water. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalorean is available in the form of rain. The best way to do the rainwater harvesting is at individual level, rooftop harvesting. The other option is through the lakes. If you can rejuvenate the lake and retain the rainwater in the lake, the surrounding groundwater also get recharged with the clean water. That is one way of harvesting the rainwater efficiently or optimally, and also at the same time do the groundwater recharge. Our experiment on mini forest of native species further highlights the linkage between the native species forest with the water. For example, in a 2-hectare area, about 49 species were planted in 90s. When I was a student, 500 saplings were planted. At that time, the region was dominated by the Parthenium, and the groundwater table was at 150 feet. Today, we have a rainforest kind of a system there, and the groundwater table is at about 10 to 15 feet, which highlights the linkage between the vegetation and the groundwater, because recharge happens in the region with the native species of vegetation. And more importantly, it also has lowered the temperature by 2 degrees Celsius. So that means the mini forest in the urban area moderates the climate, helps in the groundwater recharges, and also it becomes the habitat for the fauna like slender lories and the varieties of reptiles. If you want to see, you are most welcome to come to Indian Institute of Science campus. You can see the mini forest and also the lake created in the forest. To discuss further, we have an event called Lake Symposium, Lake 2020. We organize a symposium once in 2 years. We have been doing from 98. So the 12th event is scheduled during 28th to 30th December 2020. You are most welcome to attend the event. With this, I conclude my time. I'm sorry that I couldn't show the